We're here today talking to two amazing guests, family friends of mine. My name's John Williams and I'm a watch commander for Bucks Fire and Rescue Service. We're going to be talking about your experiences since you've come to England and your working careers. So I'll let you introduce yourselves.
I'm Valarie Taylor, 74, and I came from Jamaica.
And I'm Patsy Morris, and I've been here since 1965. And Valarie Jean is my older sister, better not say younger. Get into trouble. I'm her younger. She's my older.
Okay.
Job-wise?
Well, let's start off. So I'll give a little insight into the link that I have between, particularly Valarie and myself, and the way I've ended up in the fire service within Bucks. So back in 1996, a long time ago, I know, but back in 1996, the then councillor, soon to become mayor, Chester Jones, was having a conversation with the chief fire officer, Mr. Goddard, and they were talking about recruitment of ethnic minorities at the time. During that time, I was very good friends with Valerie's son, and we'd had discussions about the fire service, hadn't we? Me and him, and he knew that I wanted to join. The conversation with Jeff Goddard was that he wasn't aware of ethnic minorities who wanted to join the service. So you knew Chester very well, right? So you spoke to Chester about that. Do you want to pick that up?
Yes. I was working on the market at the time because I just lost my mum in '93, and I was doing the market, and Chester spoke to me with regards if I know of any young black person want to join the fire service.
Yeah.
And I went home and spoke to my son and said to him about, what Chester had put to me. And he then put John's name to say, he said, "Oh, John always wanted to be in the fire service, Mum." So I said, "Well, contact him." And I think he contacted your mum and, just go through the process. And that was how that came about between me and Chester. Yeah.
So that's basically how I got into the fire service. I got into the fire service by Chester highlighting the fact that I wanted to join, and then getting invited into headquarters, having a conversation, and then subsequently going through the process. So that's our link with my fire service career 27 years ago. A long time, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about you two now and your journey from Jamaica to England.
Yeah, because you came first, so you...
Yes, I came in 1965. By the time I came, my parents could afford for us to fly, because before that, most people came on
the boat
like the Windrush and the Begonia, and there's a C1, anyway, and, all of those ones that I can remember. So I came over with my granny, because I was living with my granny at the time, and we came here, and of course my parents had settled in Aylesbury, so I came to them, yeah. So one of the things I know that lots of people will say to you, so I said, "Oh, did you want to stay or what?" I said I came when I was 12. I had my 13th birthday here, so I had no choice. Yeah, all I know now is what I knew then, and it was that I wanted to come to be with my parents. Yeah, in spite of a good relationship with my granny. Yeah, and that's how I got here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened quite a lot, didn't it? The separation between children and their parents, and ended up living with your granny in the Caribbean. That was quite a regular occurrence, wasn't it?
My brother Austin came with my mother. I think
he was the smallest. He was the
five,
younger one.
5.5, that sort of age.
Right.
And she wasn't going to leave her wash belly at home. The youngest one at the time, we call her wash belly. She wasn't going to leave him at home. So
Remember young?
they came. Yeah, that's what I'm explaining the last one. So they brought him over with my mum. Yeah. And again, that's another story to tell that I was reminded of recently. Yeah.
Okay.
But they came in 62 and they came on the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the Beat the Band.
Yes.
When they came in 62, it was like the last time that you could come over without restriction. So they call it the Beat the Band.
You came as a British citizen.
Yeah.
Because in
it was then.
August. No, wait a minute. June, I think, is time. And you were British citizen. But by the time you got to August, it was the independence. Yeah, Jamaican independence. And when you became independent, I don't know if you remember things like when they did with China, you could either maintain your British passport as a holder, or you could choose to get a Jamaican passport.
Yeah.
So when we came in 62, we didn't know nothing about the politics or anything, but it was just a new phenomena to get a Jamaica passport. So both me and my granny came on a Jamaican passport. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even in those days, you came on a Jamaican passport, but you were still British.
Right.
Yeah.
And lots of people don't understand that.
Right. So you got here
Yeah.
as a little youngster. What did you think? What first impressions? How was it?
I must admit, I have had more issues that I believe than Jean. Yeah? Because when Jean came, she was grown, 17, 18, yeah?
17.
And my first remembrance of all of that is, apart from the cold and the darkness and the factory-looking buildings and all that, I had passed my 11 plus. So my uncle took me, because my uncle is my dad's father, and he was seen to be the more articulate one. My daddy was a factory worker. And he took me to go for an interview at the high school. I passed my, they
Scholarship.
said that you had to, even though you had a scholarship, taken on the same syllabus that England had. And I remember having 85%. So at that time I wasn't a dunce, yes. But because of the way I spoke, I was not seen to fit the high school model.
Right.
It was years later that I understood what the high school model was, and the high school model was white and Queen's English, and I was a Jamaican, so I did not fit.
So even though you had you passed the requirement, which was the 11 plus at the time, was it?
Yeah.
You weren't selected to go to a grammar school.
Yeah. Because she took
didn't fit
that
Yeah.
in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So when she
Okay.
came,
Yeah.
she should have automatically gone and you should take a entrance test,
Yes.
like most people
Yeah.
do. Then you would automatically, if you pass that entrance test, you would be okay. Yeah, should be okay.
Yeah.
But obviously,
So questions that I've grown up with was, why are you giving me a test? Why didn't you accept me? You know, but some of those kind of things followed me all through my life, even to this day.
yeah.
Even
But
to
the
this
problem
day.
is, Patsy, I still maintain that it makes you a strong. For me,
Yes.
it makes you a stronger individual because when people put in barriers there,
Yeah.
then you automatically
Yeah.
find other way in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorting things
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It's
So
a-
what was your experience?
Well, I came in 66,
Yeah.
and I was the last one to come over, of the
Yeah.
siblings. And I was at the age of 17, so I was in that working, looking for work. I remember going to the education place in Pebble Lane.
Okay.
The building's still there with the education logo bit up in Pebble Lane.
Right.
And they gave me some tests and stuff like that
Yeah.
to find out, what stage I
level you were
was
at, yeah.
and what happened to you. And I think the lady was quite impressed because when she gave me this stuff to do, I just did it. There was no, arguing and what haven't you. I went up with my mum that afternoon. And then it turned out that you could apply for a job. And as luck would have it, my dad was working at International Alloys, which is a foundry based on Bicester Road. And I went for an interview at International Alloys, and I got the job to do punch card operator at 17. It turned out that when I got there, I was the only black person that was working in the office, and that followed me through for many jobs anyway.
Yeah. So that's a good point that you make about the education of people coming from the Caribbean. I think that there was a bit of a misconception about the level of education that people were coming over with, because the education system in the Caribbean at that time was pretty good.
Yeah.
Very good, in fact.
Yeah.
And again, you've just said at that time, today date, the education standards in Jamaica is higher than what is here in England. Yeah? What happens is that students cannot get to do these kind of educational courses, so they get sponsorship and go to other courses. So many Jamaicans will go to Rhodesia, Zambia to do their masters on sponsorship. Yeah.
And how did your journey start?
And me, I got to my year ended school in 69 and went to several jobs because I was a glamour girl. I wanted to be a receptionist, yes. And in the back of my head, I've always thought that being a receptionist anywhere, you're like the face of the company. And I'm absolutely fine about that. But when I went for jobs, there were a whole load of excuses from the boss actually seeing me and saying that, oh, there's no Miss Morris here. And I would stand up and go, I'm here, sort of thing. And he would just walk into his office and slam the door. Yeah. One gentleman, everybody in my class used to have a Saturday job. And somebody told me, come to Tesco's, which is where,
Bourbon Street.
Is, I can't remember.
They used to call it Full Boy or something.
Like that. Yeah. And she said, come because they got loads of job. I went in there, knocked on the door and introduced myself, and he just looked at me and he said to me, says, you can't come here for a job because we don't have no black people. Slammed the door and went, and that was a Saturday job. So I never had a Saturday job. Yeah. So it wasn't until the end of the year at school, my then careers teacher said she didn't know what she was going to do with me because I couldn't get a job and I was not going to work in a factory. So she had some papers in her hand and she said to me, "Oh gosh, Patsy, look at this. They're going to introduce nursing students." I said, "I don't want to be a nursing student like what my mum's doing. She talk about all of these horrible things and all the blood and guts that I don't want to do that. No. I want to be a receptionist, nails painted, eyebrows in. Eyebrows are still in, and all them sort of stuff." So she said, anyway, she said, "Patsy, just go." So I went up to Stoke Mandeville for the interview and they accepted me. And what you did was you did half of the time at Aylesbury College and half of the time on the ward. And you mix it. But when I finished that and it was time for me to do my nursing now, I knew that I needed to go in to do the SRN. Yeah? No. And the then matron actually told me that girls like you that come from the Caribbean, remembering that all my secondary education is here, remembering that I came over as a grammar school student, we don't know how to study. We can't study at that level. So if you wanted to do it, you had to do your
SEN.
The SEN was like a
it's a one down.
Lower grade.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've got SEN, which that's
2
what
years.
I did. So you do 2 years.
Yeah.
But then most people, because they're dedicated, they'll do the 2 years, but then go on and do 3 years.
Right.
You just do like a 1 year thing.
Yeah.
And then you become a SRN.
Right.
And when you study for SRN, you can then become a sister.
Right. So you're looking to progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically
So
saying,
by making me an SEN, I would never be a sister. I would never be a senior manager. I would never be a matron.
Yeah. And if you look back on their records, you'll see most of the black nurses were all SEN. Started off SEN.
Yeah.
And because majority of the girls that I knew were, like myself, I'd started as a SEN, but then I would have continued
to push
and
forward.
push forward. Yeah.
All the nurses that lived in England
Yeah.
and educated here were all SENs.
SENs.
The only time you saw a black nurse as an SRN is one of them who have been given a sponsorship from their particular Caribbean island to come over here to do it. To do it. That's the only way you saw them. Everybody else, something.
So let's talk about because obviously that's restrictive. But I know for a fact that neither of you two have been restricted because of your drive and because of the way you are. You've had your successes.
You've got that determination, isn't it?
So talk to me about what you've done. Don't play it down.
Yeah.
Let's have a full.
Just follow up with what you
carry on, because the day I spoke with the matron, I basically told him how long do I have to be for my notice. Him said 4 weeks. So I said, as of today, I've handed in my notice. And he basically said, you've got to put it in. I said, that's all right, but as long as you know it's from today. And I left the office. I went home and I told my mum. And my mum basically said, so what are you going to do? So I said, I don't know. And she gave me a magazine. So I was looking in the magazine. She said, oh, this magazine came through the door. She said to her, you like all of these kind of... She gave me the magazine. And there was a picture of a beach in Malta. And it was saying that join the Royal Navy and you can travel here. You could go to Malta, Singapore, Gibraltar, where they had bombs, Cyprus, yes, I think they were the 4. I can't remember any others, but those are the 4 I do remember. And I thought, oh, so I applied. And they invited me for an interview down in Portsmouth, which is where the nearest Royal Naval Hospital is, because the next one was in Plymouth. And I went, Jean went with me, and we had a lovely day. was so nice. And I said, oh yes, this is where I want to be. So the then lady, who she's like the house mother, she said to me, but you've given up a position near a home to be an SEN, and you know that you can't do your SEN in the Navy unless you've got 5 O-levels, and I only had 2. And I said to her, yes, I understand, but you make me feel at ease and at comfort, you know. So I joined the Royal Navy, and I did my SEN in the Royal Navy, yeah.
Even though when I went to CBS, I started as a line, an operative, just operating the machine. It was in tapes, doing, the cassettes.
Old school.
Yeah, so that was what I started doing. And then as you work alongside people inclined to want to put you forward for being line and end up being line and then charge and then supervisor. And when I get to supervisor now, I stay supervisor because I was always overlooked. And eventually, I remember them bringing in this lady. She used to work in audio as the manager, and her husband got the job in my department in TIP as the manager. And but it was no good being a manager. And the girls then sort of made a revolt and said, why is he doing the job when Val can do it, with our eyes closed and everything? And he stayed there 4 weeks and then left.
Right.
And that's how I become night manager. And I worked for CBS from 1970 to 79. Because by that time I'd left the hospital and was working at CBS for 9 years.
So do you think that in and amongst all the difficulties, there would be people that would take up your case, that would see the benefits of having you around, recognise your skills,
yes,
and kind of push you forward?
No. They recognised your skills, but they weren't going to push you forward.
You had to push yourself forward.
The only way is you had to push, and you had to push, and you had to directly say to them, you're not giving me the job because of the colour of my skin. And many people I've told that at work, my mother is black, my father is black, I cannot be anything else but black.
But you see, Patsy, you're gonna get that, because the society that you're living in, you know what I mean? And for me, I just take it, that's how you view it. And I know exactly what I want to do, what I need to achieve, and what I'm sure, and nothing's gonna stop me. It's simple. That's my all focus.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because if you let people dictate what you do, then it will, be
a restricting factor. That's the thing that will always stop you unless you go past it.
The things nowadays are different, but it's different in an underground manner. So most prejudice and things is still done to this day, but it's done underground. People will still find ways of keeping you down. As I said to her one day, I remember going for a job that I'm doing, to become a sister. And the matron at the time, she interviewed me, and she told me the reason why I didn't get the job was because I didn't read a broadsheet newspaper. What? I said, my parents have always read the Mirror. That's what we get at home.
Yeah.
I don't go out and buy a paper. That's what we have at home. So I've always read it. I didn't read the Times or I think the IT.
But at least anyway, she tell you.
But I'm thinking that's what she told me.
Yeah, but the trouble is, Patsy, that's good in a way,
Yeah.
because at least she put her cards on the table, so you know exactly what the person is about. You know what I mean, and you know how to address it.
So those kind of things I picked up from, and I said, you know, and many times, you know, I'll say, you know, sort of thing. Oh yes, I had an interview to go to a grammar school. I didn't tell anybody I didn't go to no grammar school. But I had an interview. If they went and checked, they would find out that I did have an interview for a grammar school. Yeah. Oh, you yes, I read the my parents have the Times, you know, sort of thing. My parents have the Mirror, you know, but I read the Times. Yeah. And that's how I got around to things like that.
So in all the things that you've done in your working life, not only in your working life, I think in your social life as well, and the things that you are passionate about.
Yeah.
The things
Give him all the good things.
The things that have made you smile, even if the smile is inside.
So, yeah, the things that I would say that's made me smile was from when I was a youngster. I was probably 13, 14, and we used to do charity work with Stone, St. John's, yeah. And it's only in my later life I realised that when they do filming, they may well go into some archive never to be seen again, or they destroy them and film over them. But there's a couple of sessions that they filmed and had it on the black and white TV, yeah, when we did some charity work with all of those patients out there.
The mental.
And, and that was one of the early things, my early memory of doing that. Another memory was that they came back to Stoke Mandeville when I was working there, and again the BBC, and they did some filming to promote the nursing, was it Nursing Times they called it?
Nurse of the Year?
No,
it was after that, in the
Nursing
Nursing Journal
or something like that.
Yeah.
And again, that was something that I was in, but not to be negative, but it was somebody else was supposed to do it. They were sick, so I had to step in, and of course I stepped in, did it well. And
well, they're doing that today again.
And exactly, yeah, and it's just been like that. And one of my, I would describe one of my proudest time was to work with Simon Dyson. He's a professor up in De Montfort University, yeah. And to this day, the work we did with him was do with sickle cell, because I've always been passionate about sickle cell or hemoglobinopathies. But I was glad I went.
Yeah.
Because one, I met the team, there were 9 of us. 2, I met Professor Dyson. And Professor Dyson is the grandson of the Hoover Dyson man. Yeah. So that was my little notoriety to him as well. And
But sickle cell,
to this day, the results of that sickle cell trial research, it's a research thing and trial, it's still used in this country. We've reported and did all the papers, and my name's on all of them. And our work is still quoted in literature from other countries, because other countries took on and adopted it and did the work. So that's one of the good things. And although I hadn't written any papers about the blood transfusion, which is where I ended my career, there is lots of things that I did with blood transfusion, particularly to bridge the gap between blood transfusion and midwifery, and it's still used to this day. So my name is out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah. And of course, we talked about charity. and I'm an avid member of all sorts of different charity organisations, and I'm always doing some charity something. So that sort of carried on with me.
Because I know you've got a list, and I know you don't really talk that much. And we've spoken before about the fact that when you do things and you do it from the heart, you don't necessarily have to go around and shout about what you do and how you do it. But sometimes it's good to
you need
get the recognition.
to put it out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I do a lot for the schools.
Yes.
Number of from infants right up to secondary school and what haven't you. Lots of fundraising always. We have always, like, for instance, like St. Edward's and St. Joseph, we used to, instead of them putting the first prize up, we used to give them the holiday as a first prize, so that they'd keep that money. And then I would sell hundreds of pounds worth of raffle tickets for them, and then go along the day and, spend the whole day, my time. And my husband would set up the bar, buy the beer and stay there the whole day and sell. And I used to go around and do like the champagne raffle, and if I don't get £150, it's not going to be enough. So yes, so they're the type of thing that I do. Lots for Macmillan, whether it's through me or someone else. The Walk for Life, one lady, she do the walk, and I actually get the sponsors for her. And we've done fundraising also for Florence Nightingale, which, been shown to being successful.
I'm just looking there, the meadows, for the serpentine swim. We go and support them, do charity work for them, and also the bike ride.
And the bike ride,
We've been involved with that in London.
This is it. I mean, it's poignant that when you came over as youngsters, trying to make your way and trying to make a living, and integrating, and you look now at where you've ended up. Very well respected. I know very well respected in the community and the wider community as well, not just among the West Indians, but in general, and leaving that bit of a legacy with your families and the youngsters, obviously, kids that I know that have done well themselves, that have a certain way about them and think a certain way, and that's a testimony to the way that you've brought them up and the way that you've moved around the community. So,
definitely.
So I definitely think that on the one hand it's good to keep these things inside, but on the other hand it's definitely good to get them out there and let people know that there are people like yourselves in the community that are doing good work and that are helping to make our communities more diverse and more accepting.
And the problem is, you see, you're just doing it from the heart. You're not even think that. When people say, "Oh, you've done," so I'm thinking, I don't think.
Because I know that I have to draw things out of you in terms of what you've done, as opposed to you saying them. So I definitely thank the pair of you for the way you are.
Because you know a little bit more today than you did.
Yes, absolutely. Even though I've known you all my life.
And in actual fact, even like with culture evening, for instance, from the start, I always have been, person that always, before they used to be able to give us money, I used to just use my own money and do the food. Even if I'm going to a wedding, I will do what I need to do and hand it over to Madge, and go off to the wedding.
Yeah.
Even as I said to you this morning about my dad,
Yeah.
the weekend when he died, I had given him a bag of okra to top and tail for me, which was going to use for the night. But unfortunately, he died that Saturday, so consequently, lots of
good work.
Yeah.
And so, strangely enough, because my parents came here and stayed here, there were so many things that they did behind the scenes that occasionally somebody will recognize, oh, I know where that come from, you know what I mean? Because then they can see my parents in us. And what we're doing. But, that's the way we were. That's the way we think. And I would also say that in spite of living here all this time, because we were Jamaican bred, we still have that Jamaicanism in us. Yes. There's no... sometimes people sort of say to compare, and I said there's no comparison, because I came here because my parents lived here. I didn't come here because I wanted to come here. Came here within there. However, there's things in my life that's made me even more Jamaican than I am. I've lived here 54 years. I lived 12 years in Jamaica. But if you meet me and you have to say, where do you come from?
You've lived here longer than 54 years. It's 58 years.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. 58 years.
Yeah, I know that I'm here 57 years.
Yes. All right. Yes.
And if I'm here 57, and in 1966, that's when the football, I came on the football.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was the same year that England won the World Cup.
But it's just on that idea itself, I think you're right talking about the amount of time that you've spent here and comparing that with how you feel as a person and your Jamaican heritage, because similarly I was born here, I'm born and raised here, and I've been lucky enough that my parents have always taken us to the Caribbean, made sure we know where our roots are and where we come from, so that I go back to Dominica now and I don't feel uncomfortable there.
No.
I've grown up knowing people who have grown up at the same time as me. And if I was to talk about how I feel, I'm equally Dominican as I am English.
Yes.
And I was born, raised, worked, schooled here. So I think it's definitely poignant that we do retain that thing of our heritage, of the blood that's coursing through our veins. And it's not dissimilar to anyone, people that move from different parts of this country still retain some
up north or south
to themselves, and that's going to be a natural thing. Thank you very much for you coming here today and sharing your experiences with us. A personal thank you for being involved in my upbringing and being a good representation of what it should be to be good people in our community.
I want to say is that you saying about personally involved, because I do remember you from that time, and I am always proud, particularly in Aylesbury, to see a black man that I knew from here to there, and you're doing something and making a difference, recognizing your ethnicity, and being proud of it, because I know I am proud of mine, and despite the struggles and all that went on, there are very few people that can touch me, and that is the way I try to live my life and carrying on. I'm at the end of my life now, but Such is it. Yes.
Yeah, and all I've got to say, John, thanks very much for inviting me
Yes.
along to this process. It's a first, and I'm in awe of all that you've achieved, and I'm really, really proud just to be part of that. Like a mum, be proud of her son, honest.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, honest, yeah.
Thanks
And
very
I
much.
hope you'll go even further. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.